Watch out!
Warning, this is going to be a very bleak video. There's really no fun or easy way to convey this news, so if you can't handle it, I recommend you click off and go watch a video on ponies instead. Though you better do it within the next 2 months, because after that, you won't be able to run from these hard facts once they hit your wallet. If you're like me and you've been down the last couple of weeks, buckle up, kiddos, because it's about to get a whole lot worse. Like many of you, I play video games to escape reality a lot of the time. And I've been especially reliant on them recently for that exact reason. Joke's on me though, because I'm hardly going to even have that soon. And neither will you. Here's why. Unless you've been living in a gutter, you know that Donald Trump recently won the presidential election here in the United States. Thanks to the help of his billionaire buddies, insane disinformation campaign from Elon Musk's takeover on Twitter, as well as Musk literally paying voters to vote for Trump, which is illegal, but nothing will be done about it, and general Republican monopoly on news media, such as Fox News, Times Magazine, The Hill, The Guardian, NBC, etc., Trump won this election in a landslide. The propaganda was extremely effective, chat, and I wouldn't be surprised if some of you fell for it too. I almost can't blame you. The disinformation campaign has crept into literally every nook and cranny of our lives and habits to trick the average voter into voting against their own best interest. And it's exactly the same tactics that were tried and true in Russia, China, and North Korea. Brilliant examples to lead by, am I right? But we f***ed around, and we're about to find out. Sadly though, everyone has to pay the price, even those of us who voted against this and even those of you too who kept your heads buried in the sand. That's right, the effects of Trump's victory are so far-reaching that even I didn't realize that they would extend to our dear old video games. Possibly the biggest con old Rump pulled this election cycle was misinforming the American populace about how tariffs work. America, who, by the way, is a vastly undereducated and gullible nation, fell for Trump's trademark lies as per usual. Only after the election did Americans choose to do the easiest task in the world and Google what a tariff is. Yep, on November 6th and 7th, the two biggest searches on Google were what is a tariff and how to change my vote. Which, by the way, you can't. And this is all the more reason you need to do your research and listen to your educated friends before the election. And it's even funnier when you learn that the biggest search result on November 5th, Election Day, was, did Joe Biden drop out? You can't make this shit up, folks. This country is truly So you're probably wondering why I'm talking about all this. Well, to put it simply, these tariffs will raise the price of your game consoles and video games substantially. It's so bad that game companies like Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft have written and sent joint letters to the forming Trump administration to try and beg for exemptions. But we're going to discuss those letters and that whole situation later because it's not looking good. Now, this tariff issue isn't exclusive to gaming. The price of everything here is about to skyrocket from them, but for the sake of this channel being a gaming channel, and gaming being my main hobby, and presumably yours too, let's dissect why these prices are about to go up so dramatically. I'm going to take us through this slowly, because if we learned anything these last 2 weeks, it's that we need to do a better job of explaining things. This is something that will directly impact you as a gamer, so let's make this as clear as possible. What is a tariff? A tariff is a tax on imported goods. Who pays for tariffs? Well, because one nation cannot tax another nation, it falls on the wholesale companies from the importing nation to pay the tariffs. However, the cost of those tariffs is always passed on to the consumers from that same importing nation. To put this simply, in this case, the tax will be paid by the United States wholesale industries, and the US citizens themselves will be the ones footing the bill. If you live in America, yes, that means you. It is you who will be paying the difference. You will essentially be the one who pays for the tariffs. I just want to make sure that that's crystal clear. How high will Trump's tariffs be? They will be at least a 60% tax on any imported goods from any foreign nation. In Trump's own words, he wants to make them as large and obnoxious as possible. Why would Trump tax games and consoles? Because they are made and distributed from foreign nations, particularly China. Why does Trump think these tariffs are a good idea? Because he wants to further enrich himself and his billionaire friends that live in the United States and operate their businesses from here. After all, do not forget that tariff payments go straight to the government. Okay, so why wouldn't these foreign companies just move their businesses to the United States? Because they know that the cost of moving their manufacturing resources is more money than they have, or if they do have the funds, then the cost that they pass off to customers will be so high that no one will buy from them anymore, losing them investors and sales, putting them effectively out of business. Conversely, they could just not do business with us at all, and they would totally be fine with that. Plus, the United States does not have all the same resources as other countries, so many businesses here aren't even feasible. Okay, so now we should all be on the same page, and I know it got a little more complicated and hard to follow there at the end, I understand. So let's walk us through an example of how we'll see this go down with the gaming companies. We'll use Nintendo as an example. Nintendo is about to come out with the Switch 2. Under current US policies, the Switch 2 will likely cost around $400 on release when you consider the higher cost of production and adjustment for the inflation that Trump's mishandling of the pandemic introduced, and that we're still dealing with today. Even though the inflation rate has gone down, those prices still remain high and they're never going back down. Now, $400 is a lot, sure, but it's manageable for now. New games for the Switch 2 will also likely cost the current industry standard, which is about $70. Also high, but still, we've been able to pay it so far. Now, with Trump's tariffs, which he plans to implement immediately and will have zero pushback from the other branches of government, because America voted to make them all Republican as well, he will impose a minimum of 60% tax on all these games and the Switch 2 itself because they're imported. Remember, the cost of these taxes are always passed off to the consumer. The consumer is you, the gamer who lives here in the United States. 60% of $400 is $240. That's almost the cost of an entire another Switch 1, chat. So do some simple addition, and the Switch 2, when it releases to the United States under Trump's presidency, will be a minimum of $640. And this is the best case scenario. Remember, Trump said he wants to raise the taxes, quote, obnoxiously high, and only established 60% as a baseline. His largest target for the tariffs will be China, which he said he'd want to tax them higher than everywhere else. Hey guys, guess where Nintendo's console manufacturing takes place? Yeah, you guessed it, China. So the $640 price tag could actually be anywhere up around $1,000, give or take, depending on how much higher he taxes China. And then don't forget your $70 games as well. They will, at a minimum, now cost you $112 each. All of a sudden, your vote means a lot more to you now, huh? As you can clearly see, this isn't something you can just turn your head away from. To use Trump's own words again, it's going to be obnoxiously in your face, everywhere you turn. The death and destruction Trump promised is coming. What he described will be a bloody story under his administration, his words, not mine, is coming. And we can't even try to create our own little safe spaces with our fun little video games because either we're going to lose business from our gaming companies here in this country, or the prices are going to be so high we can't even afford them. So there goes our refuge from reality. No, instead, we're going to have to face the facts that we will now be living under America's Hitler, a man whose favorite foreign leaders are and you know what those two do to people who speak out against them in their own countries? In Russia, year after year, prominent individuals who speak out against fall to their deaths shortly after. The most recent of which was the famous Russian ballet dancer, Vladimir Skyrocket. In North Korea, who could forget the disturbing story of Otto Warmbier, an American tourist who was singled out and imprisoned by in less than a year of being tortured and when America finally got a deal to release him, Otto arrived back in the United States with all of his hair ripped out, all of his teeth brutally rearranged, his legs and feet broken, battered, and deformed, blinded by who knows what torture, and his brain so damaged from his head being bashed that he was unable to talk, walk, drink, or do anything on his own, and he died just a few weeks later. These are the acts of the men that Donald Trump calls his best friends, the people that he praises for being his favorite foreign leaders. This is what America just signed up for. And if you think the rising prices in our gaming hobby is the worst of it, just wait till you have to bear witness to what happens to those who speak out against leaders like these two and Donald Trump. And you realize all we'll be able to do is sit down and take it, or else we end up like Otto, or we end up like Skyrocket. Hell, I'm risking my own life just by making this video and sitting here and telling you actual facts. But I'm not a coward, and I refuse to be on the wrong side of history. All of my life, I have refused to sit down and just take it. Trump has said himself that he plans on sicking the US military on the American people. We should start believing him when he tells us who he is and what he wants. And if something happens to me within the next 4 years, know who is responsible. Though if I'm being honest, I'm probably not big enough to be a target, but let's just say I do one day. Just in case. We know who's responsible. Alright, so let's take a look at the joint letter that the gaming companies like Nintendo and Sony sent to the incoming Trump administration. The letter reads, "Economically, the video game industry contributes substantially to the US economy, and its year-on-year growth is impressive. The US video game industry generated total revenue of $36 billion in 2017 and $43.4 billion in 2018, reflecting over 20% in growth. This industry directly and indirectly employs more than 220,000 people. 99.7% of video game companies qualify as small businesses and can be found in each of the 50 states. Many develop software for video games across the range of platforms, from PCs to mobile, including the video game consoles that we manufacture, are an integral part of the booming app economy. In 2018, over 96% of video game consoles imported into the United States were made in China. The video game console supply chain has developed in China over many years of investment by our companies and our partners. It would cause significant supply chain disruption to shift sourcing entirely to the United States or a third country, and it would increase costs, even beyond the cost of the proposed tariffs, on products that are already manufactured under tight margin conditions. Each video game console comprises dozens of complex components sourced from multiple countries. A change in even a single supplier must be vetted carefully to mitigate risks of product quality, unreliability, and consumer safety issues. Tariffs would significantly disrupt our company's businesses and add significant costs that would depress sales of video game consoles and the games and services that drive the profitability of this market segment." In other words, even these game companies are scared shitless about what Trump is about to do. And that's not a good thing this time around, because it doesn't just affect them, it affects all of us. So maybe some of you think Trump might actually heed the words of this letter and give them the exemption. But I want you to really wrap your brain around who Trump is so that you realize that he is most likely, very, very most likely, not going to do that. Donald Trump is a 78-year-old man. How many 80-year-olds do you know in your life who actually acknowledge and appreciate your interest in video games, who understand what they even are, and whether they do or not, even comprehend how meaningful they are to you? Not looking so good, huh? How about if I informed you that Trump has been on record being one of those boomers who complains about video games causing violence and rotting people's brains? Yeah, look it up. His response to school shootings was the classic blame the video games. So no, I don't hold out any hope that Trump will give these gaming companies an exemption to the tariffs. Matter of fact, I think he will gleefully put them out of business, or at the very least, shy them away from releasing anything here in America. And he won't care. He won't. Hell, this country has me 1 foot in to stop making gaming content entirely, because apparently we need more political education content. And technically, I could offer that. I'm really trying not to sound hopeless, and I don't want to stop making videos on things that make me happy, like video games, but if I'm being honest, it's just really hard right now. as proven by how our video games are about to skyrocket in price. Or we could lose them entirely because of the game companies not wanting to pay the price to sell them here. I really hope that Trump proves me wrong, but for all the reasons I mentioned, I'm not staking any bets on that. Now, speaking of all this disinformation campaigning that Trump and Elon Musk and all did, I have made a Blue Sky account, so if you guys can please follow me there instead of on my other social media, that would be amazing. I'm trying to build out on Blue Sky so that I can really just move completely away from X and all the disinformation there, because it's just a giant Republican propaganda machine at this point. So please follow me on Blue Sky. Let's have a dandy time. And if you need something more lighthearted after this extremely heavy video, feel free to check out my other videos where I actually do have gleeful information to share, like this one here where I discuss how the biomes will work in the new Pokemon Legends EA game. I've been JotoJohnny, and I'll catch you all there.